I noticed her because she noticed me first. It was one of those silent, ordinary moments people pretend not to care about, like standing in line or waiting for something to change. But when her eyes met mine, it didn't feel ordinary at all. "Where do you get the audacity to look at me?" she said, her voice sharp but not entirely serious. I smiled without thinking. "Rules become meaningless in the face of beauty," I replied, like it was the most natural answer in the world. She didn't look away. That was the strange part. Most people would. There are always rules, even unspoken ones, especially in places like this station where everything is monitored, measured, and quietly judged. But she stood there, breaking that rule as if it didn't exist. Her long ears made her different, yes, but it wasn't just that. It was the way she carried herself, like she knew she didn't belong and didn't care. "You're not supposed to talk like that," she said, but now there was something softer in her voice, something curious. "And you're not supposed to look at people like me." "I don't follow 'supposed to' very well," I said. "It sounds exhausting." She let out a small laugh, quick and unexpected, like she didn't mean to share it. "You humans always say things like that, acting like rules don't matter, but you build your whole lives around them. And you," I asked, "you do?" Her smile faded for a second, replaced by something more honest. "I was raised to." Perfectly. There was a pause, not uncomfortable, just real. People moved around us, pretending not to notice, pretending we were just another ordinary interaction. But it didn't feel ordinary anymore. It felt like standing at the edge of something neither of us fully understood. "What's your name?" I asked. She hesitated, like the question itself carried weight. "You ask too many questions for someone who ignores rules." "And you avoid answers for someone who just broke one," I said. That made her smile again, wider this time. "Lyra," she said finally, "but you're not supposed to say it like that." "Like what?" "Like it means something." I nodded slowly. Too late. For a moment, neither of us spoke. It wasn't awkward. It felt like something quiet was building, something simple but impossible to ignore. Not dramatic, not overwhelming, just there. Like realizing you've been alone for a long time and suddenly you're not. "You shouldn't stay near me," she said after a while. "It's not allowed." "I've already failed at following rules," I said. "No point stopping now." She looked at me carefully, as if trying to decide something important. "You don't understand," she said. "People like me, we don't get to choose things like this." "Maybe not," I said, "but maybe this isn't something you choose." "And what is it?" she asked quietly. I shrugged, smiling a little. "A mistake, probably." She laughed again, softer this time, and shook her head. "That's the worst answer you could give." "Maybe," I said, "but you're still here." She didn't deny it. She didn't step away either, and in that small, simple decision, something changed. Not loudly, not dramatically, but enough to matter. We didn't know it yet, but that moment, standing there, breaking rules we barely understood, was already turning into something neither of us would be able to walk away from. Not because we had to stay, but because, for the first time, leaving didn't feel like the easier choice. We did not plan to meet again, but the station had a way of folding paths into each other. The next time I saw Lyra, she was not alone. Two figures stood at a distance behind her, quiet but watchful, like a warning that hadn't been spoken yet. She looked at me differently this time, not surprised, not amused, just certain. "You shouldn't be here," she said under her breath. "I was just thinking the same about you," I replied, keeping my tone light. "Either we're both lost or this place has terrible design." She almost smiled, but it didn't stay. "They're watching me," she said, "and now they've noticed you." "Good," I said. "I hate being ignored." "That's not funny," she said, though a small breath escaped her, something between stress and relief. "You don't understand what happens when someone like me breaks protocol." "I understand enough," I said quietly. "You stayed." Her eyes held mine, and for a moment everything else felt distant, like the station itself had lowered its volume. "I didn't stay for the station," she said. Before I could answer, the two figures moved closer. Not aggressively, just enough to remind us they were part of the moment. Lyra stepped back, not away from me, but into herself. "You need to go," she said quickly, "right now." "And you?" I asked. "I don't get to go," she replied. Something in that answer stayed with me longer than it should have. I didn't argue. I didn't try to be brave in a way that would only make things worse. I just nodded, like this was temporary, like we both understood that leaving didn't mean ending. But it did. Days passed, or something like days. Time on the station didn't behave the way people expected. I tried to return to the same place, then different places, then nowhere specific at all. She wasn't there. No trace, no signal, nothing. It felt less like she had left and more like she had been removed. I started noticing things I hadn't before. Systems glitching for no reason. Announcements repeating themselves with small errors. Once, a security unit froze mid-step as if it had forgotten what it was supposed to do. It should have been unsettling. Instead, it felt familiar. Then one night, if it was night, I heard her voice. "You're terrible at following instructions," she said from behind me. I turned too quickly, like I might lose the moment if I moved slowly. She stood there, alone this time, but not untouched by whatever had taken her. There was something different in her expression, something more decided. "You left," I said. "They made me," she corrected. "There's a difference." "And now I came back," she said. "Also a difference." I stepped closer, not thinking about who might be watching. "That sounds like a bad decision." "It is," she said, "for both of us." "Then why do it?" She hesitated, and for the first time since I met her, she looked unsure. "Not weak, just honest. Because I kept thinking about that moment," she said. "The one where you looked at me like I wasn't something to avoid." "That's because you're not," I said. "That's not how my world works," she replied. "Maybe your world is wrong," she laughed softly, shaking her head. "You really believe that, don't you?" "I believe you came back," I said. "That has to mean something. It means I chose something I'm not allowed to choose," she said. "And now they're not going to ignore it." "Let them," I said. "We'll figure it out." "You say that like it's simple." "It's not," I admitted, "but it's not impossible either." For a moment, neither of us spoke. The space between us felt smaller than before, not because we moved, but because something had already closed the distance. "I don't know how this ends," she said quietly. "Neither do I," I replied. "But I know it doesn't end with you disappearing again." She looked at me like she wanted to believe that. "You don't get to decide that." "Maybe not," I said, "but I get to stay." This time, when she smiled, it wasn't hesitant. It wasn't careful, it was real, and it carried something stronger than defiance. It carried choice. And somewhere beyond us, something in the station shifted again, like it had started paying attention in a way it never had before. They came without noise, the way systems fail before anyone notices. One moment the station moved as it always had, predictable and controlled, and the next, everything felt slightly off. Lights delayed their response, announcements overlapped, and the quiet watchers no longer pretended to be subtle. Lyra saw it before I did. "They've stopped observing," she said. "Now they're acting." "Good," I answered. Observing was starting to feel rude. She didn't laugh this time. "This is the part where it ends for people like me." I shook my head. "No, this is the part where it changes. You don't know what they'll do," she said. "I know what you did," I replied. "You came back." That was enough to hold her there, even as the corridor sealed behind us without warning. A voice followed, calm and artificial, but not entirely stable. It spoke in fragments, like it was unsure of its own authority. It listed violations, probabilities, outcomes. It tried to define her, then me, then what we were together. It failed at all three. "They can't process this," I said quietly. "They're not supposed to," she answered. "Neither am I, but you are," I said. "That's the difference." The space around us tightened, not physically, but in expectation. The system wasn't designed for confrontation like this. It was designed for compliance. Lyra stepped forward before I could stop her. "I followed every rule you gave me," she said, her voice steady. "I became exactly what I was supposed to be, and it meant nothing." The voice responded, correcting her, redefining her purpose, listing her value in terms that sounded complete but felt empty. "I chose something else," she continued. "And now you don't know what to do with me." There was a pause. Not silence, but something close to it. The system hesitated. I stepped beside her. "It doesn't know what to do with either of us," I added. "That's new. You're irrelevant," the voice said, more sharply this time. "Then why am I still here?" I asked. No answer came, only a flicker in the air, a delay in response that stretched longer than it should have. Lyra looked at me, and this time there was no uncertainty in her expression. "This is where I would have stopped before," she said. "Where I would have accepted whatever came next." "And now?" I asked. "Now I don't," she said. The system reacted instantly, or tried to. Commands triggered, locks engaged, but nothing held the way it was meant to. The structure that controlled everything depended on predictability, and we had already broken that. "You're causing instability," the voice said. "Or revealing it," I replied. Another pause, longer this time, then slowly the tension shifted. Not released, not resolved, just changed. The systems around us began to reset, not to their original state, but to something quieter, less certain. They won't chase you the same way anymore, I said. They can't, Lyra answered. They'd have to admit something changed. I smiled slightly. That would be difficult for them. She looked at me, and this time there was no distance left, no hesitation waiting to be resolved. You stayed, she said. I said I would. You didn't have to. I wanted to, I answered. That seemed to matter more than anything else. Not the systems, not the rules, not the consequences waiting somewhere beyond this moment. Just that simple choice. What happens now? She asked. I took a breath, not because I needed to, but because it felt real to do it. Now we leave, I said. Not because we're forced to, because we decide to. She nodded slowly. Together, obviously, I said. I'm terrible at doing things alone. That finally made her laugh again, clear and unguarded, the way it had been at the beginning, but stronger now, like it belonged to her completely. We walked without being stopped. No alarms, no voices trying to correct us. The station didn't know what to do anymore, and for once, that was enough. At the threshold, she paused just for a moment, like she was marking the end of something she had outgrown. You were wrong about one thing, she said. That's not new, I replied. Which one? This wasn't a mistake, she said. I smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. We didn't look back. Not because there was nothing behind us, but because there was finally something ahead that didn't need permission. And for the first time, neither of us waited for the rules to tell us what came next. We left without knowing where outside actually began. The station had always defined everything, movement, permission, even time, and without it, things felt strangely open, like stepping into a space that had no instructions. Lyra walked beside me, not ahead, not behind, just there, as if that alone was something new she was learning. They won't follow us, she said after a while. You sound sure, I replied. I'm not, she admitted. But I know how they think, or how they used to. Used to? I asked. She glanced at me. You changed something back there, or maybe we did. I shook my head slightly. I didn't change anything, I just stopped agreeing with it. That's the same thing, she said. We kept moving, though neither of us had chosen a direction. The systems that once tracked every step were gone, or at least silent, and for the first time there was no sense of being measured. It should have felt freeing. Instead, it felt unfamiliar. What happens if they rewrite everything? I asked. Erase what we did? They can't erase choice, she said. Only ignore it. That sounds optimistic. It's not, she said. It's inconvenient. I smiled at that, but the thought stayed with me. If everything we had done could simply be set aside, then what remained? I didn't ask the question out loud. I wasn't sure I wanted the answer. We found a transport line that still functioned, though barely. No guards, no announcements, just a quiet system waiting to be used. Lyra hesitated before stepping in. This leads away from everything I know, she said. Good, I replied. Everything you knew didn't let you choose. And what about you? She asked. What are you leaving behind? I thought about that longer than I expected. Nothing that asked me to stay, I said finally. She nodded, and that was enough. We stepped into the transport, and it carried us forward without asking why. Time passed, though not in a way we could measure. The further we moved, the less stable things felt, not dangerous, just inconsistent. Systems flickered between states, like they couldn't decide which version of reality to follow. Once, we saw a corridor repeat itself 3 times before settling into a single path. They're trying to correct something, Lyra said. Or undo it, I added. She didn't answer, but I could tell she was thinking the same thing. It happened gradually at first. Small things, a delay in her responses, a moment where she seemed to forget what she had just said. I noticed it before she did, or maybe I just admitted it sooner. You paused, I said once. I always pause, she replied. Not like that. She looked at me, studying my expression like she was trying to understand it from the outside. Something is adjusting, she said, not just around us. In you, I asked. She didn't answer immediately. In what I am, she said finally. That stayed with me, not who she was, but what she was. Is it them? I asked. No, she said. If it were them, I would feel it differently. This is something else. Like what? Like time correcting itself, she said. Like I wasn't supposed to continue past a certain point. I didn't like that answer. You're here, I said. That's enough. For now, she replied. We didn't stop moving, but something had changed between us. Not distance, not hesitation, just awareness. Every moment felt more deliberate, like it mattered more because it might not repeat. Do you regret it? I asked at one point. Coming back, she said, yes. She looked at me, steady and certain. No, even now, especially now, she said, because now I understand what it meant. And what did it mean? I asked. It meant I chose something that doesn't fit into what I was made for, she said, and I'm still choosing it. I wanted to believe that was enough, I really did, but the pauses became longer, her steps slowed, not physically, but in presence. Like she was there and not there at the same time. Once she reached for my hand and stopped halfway as if she had forgotten what she was doing. Lyra, I said quietly. I know, she answered. We stopped walking after that. Not because we had reached somewhere, but because continuing didn't feel like it would change anything. This is where it separates, she said. No, I replied immediately. We'll find a way around it. There isn't one, she said. Not for this, there's always something, I insisted. That's what you believe, she said gently. That's why I stayed. I didn't respond. I couldn't. She stepped closer, and this time she didn't hesitate. Her hand found mine, solid, real, undeniable. I wasn't supposed to exist like this, she said. Not beyond the system that defined me. When I stepped outside it, I continued because of what we changed. But that change isn't stable. Then we make it stable, I said. You can't force reality to agree with you, she replied. I can refuse to agree with it, I said. She smiled, and it felt like the first moment all over again, but deeper now, carrying everything we had already lived through. That's why this mattered, she said. Not because it lasts forever, because it existed at all. I don't accept that, I said. You don't have to, she replied. That was never your role, and yours is to disappear, I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. My role was to choose, she said, and I did. Her hand tightened slightly in mine, like she was holding onto something she couldn't keep. I can feel it, she said quietly. I'm not continuing the same way anymore. I didn't let go, I couldn't. You don't get to just end, I said. I'm not ending, she replied. Not the way you think. Then what? I asked. I become part of what we changed, she said. Not as someone you can stand next to, but as something that remains. That's not enough, I said. It has to be, she answered. For a moment everything felt still, not silent, not empty, just held in place. I don't want this to be where it stops, I said. It doesn't, she said. You continue. That's not the same. No, she agreed. It's not. Her hand began to feel different, not gone, not fading, just less certain, like it existed in more than one place at once. You said we would leave together, I said. We did, she replied. That part is true. And the rest? I asked. The rest is yours, she said. I shook my head. It was never just mine. She didn't argue. She just looked at me, and in that look there was no fear, no regret, only something complete. You'll remember me, she said. Of course I will. And that will change things, she added. It already did, I said. She smiled one last time, not hesitant, not uncertain, just real. That's enough, she said. And then she wasn't there the way she had been before, not gone, not erased, just no longer something I could reach. I stood there longer than I needed to, holding onto something that had already shifted beyond holding. The systems around me settled into a quiet that didn't feel like control anymore. It felt like space. She had been right about one thing. Choice couldn't be erased. It could only continue in different forms. I started walking again, not because I knew where to go, but because stopping didn't make sense anymore. For the first time, there were no rules to follow, no system to resist, just a path that existed because I chose to take it. And somewhere within that choice, she was still there, not beside me but not gone either,